let's talk about cryptocurrency. Let's talk about why it got my attention. I was reading at the time about countries overseas losing their money, their existing money. Their economy collapsed. We've seen it happen in Greece a couple times. I think we've seen it in Egypt. Actually, we've seen it in a lot of countries over there where people, once they have that situation, now their money, whatever that is, their currency is worthless. But if they have cryptocurrency, it's unaffected by that, as long as that cryptocurrency is accepted by the vendors that they still want to do business with. Is that correct?
That is correct. But that gets us to a problem that we talked about. As long as it's accepted by enough people.
Yeah.
That is becoming truer every day. Bitcoin, all cryptocurrencies are being accepted more places, more merchants, everywhere. However, certain countries typically do not like this stuff. For example, China and India have both banned, I think, maybe not all cryptocurrencies, but at least Bitcoin, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a crypto police state masquerading as security. That is, that's from critical thinking. It could be, yes, it could be. And again, the microchips, I know that scares a lot of people, and frankly, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's coming. There's nothing we can do to stop that from happening. Comment? Critical thinking on YouTube asked that.
I like it. I like that critical thinking.
I do, and that's a great point because again, I don't know if you've seen the movie Minority Report here in the U.S. With Tom Cruise back in the day.
It's a great movie.
It was. I really like that movie too. But there's a lot of scary stuff in there, and a lot of that stuff is coming true to a degree in various different forms. For example, in that movie, you had the eye scan to get into the building or whatever towards the end of the movie. That's happening. I mean, you can do that with your iPhone now.
Oh, we have biometrics now. Yeah, exactly.
Biometrics is here already, and it's going to get even more prominent as we go. Again, whether that's right or wrong, good or bad, that's just what's happening. It's going to happen.
Well, we're about to dive into the more negative side, the paranoia side. Maybe it's paranoia, maybe it's not. We're going to dive into some of the fears around it, and then come back around to positive points. The reason I want to touch on all of these things is because if somebody like me is looking at investing in cryptocurrencies, they should be aware of everything. And some of the fear, in my opinion, is simply that. It's simply fear. It's not fact-based, but some of the concern is valid. So we need to be aware,
Well, and to get back to the China and India thing,
let's go back to that.
This is one reason I haven't invested in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies at this point, because I've studied history. I know that governments, when their currency comes under stress, they do everything they can to fight against that, because their currency gives them power over their government, taxes, the people, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's literally what makes their country run.
Yeah. So, for example, before we get back to China and India, the U.S. dollar hasn't always been around. Back in, I think, the Civil War ruined the greenback was the currency at the time, because the U.S. Spent so much money and was so much debt after the U.S. Civil War, they had to create a new currency because the greenback defaulted. I don't know if it was a technical default like some of these other countries we're going to talk about, but I do know they had to get rid of that currency, and they implemented the U.S. dollar years later to take the place of it because the currency came under too much stress. How does that relate to China and India? They have outlawed, to some degree, and I think India banned all cryptocurrencies, banned them. You can't transact in these things.
Well,
again,
that's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, there's ways around that.
Yeah.
And again, is that right or wrong? I don't think it's right, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And again, I expected that because of the history I've studied. Are more countries going to do that? Probably, frankly, because they don't control it. If the U.S. government, for example, they don't directly control U.S. money supply because the Federal Reserve does. It's an independent entity, which it's not, but they say they are.
Sure.
Which means they can print as much money as they want and do these things that they've been doing during the 2007, 2008 financial crisis and during the COVID crash. They can print money, they can buy bonds, they can do all that stuff. They can't do that with Bitcoin because they don't control it.
Right.
That's why, until that is more situated to me, that means Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies are more of a speculation. Again, technology is fantastic. I'm fascinated by the technology. But until it becomes widely accepted, literally pretty much everywhere, then if you have $1 million, for example, in Bitcoin, but you go to India, but you don't have any other cash, probably can't do anything.
Right.